Welcome to The Explainer. I am so absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're embarking on a really exciting journey to demystify the modern Linux desktop experience. If you've ever felt, a little intimidated by the whole idea of Linux, or if you still picture it as nothing but green text endlessly scrolling on a black screen, well, prepare to have your mind blown. We're going to explore the modern, sleek, and incredibly powerful reality of desktop Linux in 2025. But before we even touch the software, I want to pose a question directly to you. Who really controls your computer? Think about it for a second. You bought the hardware, right? But increasingly, it feels like the software dictates exactly what you can and can't do. We constantly find ourselves frustrated by forced updates, those relentless advertisements baked right into the system, and all these artificial limitations. So today's explainer is anchored around one core theme: digital ownership. It's really about taking the keys back. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the operating system middleman, then explore the free software philosophy, walk through choosing your Linux distribution, setting up and installing your new software, and finally, we'll look at daily life and gaming.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the operating system middleman.
It's absolutely crucial to understand what an operating system, or OS, actually is. Think of it as the vital middleman between your hardware and your apps. When you press a key on your keyboard, the OS receives that signal and passes it along to your browser. Now, corporate and community OS priorities are vastly different in how they handle this transaction. Windows leverages its position to serve ads or push services like OneDrive, while macOS maintains a tightly locked-in premium hardware ecosystem. Linux, on the other hand, is built purely on community priorities. It's volunteer-driven, putting user control and freedom front and center. And this community spirit is perfectly represented by Tux the Penguin, the official mascot of the Linux kernel. He represents something fundamentally different in the tech world. Because desktop Linux is a massive community effort rather than a corporate product designed to be sold, it just has a totally different vibe and structure. If something breaks, volunteers or corporate sponsors jump in and fix it. If you don't like how something works, you actually have the power to change it yourself. It's an operating system literally built by the people using it.
Moving right along to Section 2, the free software philosophy.
This philosophy is the absolute bedrock of the entire ecosystem. So the crucial point here is understanding the word free. In this specific context, free means freedom, not necessarily free of charge, though, to be fair, most Linux software is actually that too. It guarantees you the freedom to run the software for absolutely any purpose, to study the source code, to modify it, and to distribute your changes. And because everyone is required to share their improvements, everyone benefits. It's really an unprecedented scale of global collaboration.
Now for Section 3, choosing your Linux distribution.
So, what is a distribution, or distro? It's basically a complete operating system built right on top of the Linux kernel. And what's really interesting about this transition we're in right now is that understanding it helps you pick the exact right distro for 2025. Currently, Linux is moving away from X11, which is this ancient protocol from 1984 for displaying graphics, over to Wayland, which is the modern, simple replacement. Why does this matter to you? Well, if you have multiple monitors with different resolutions or refresh rates, X11 struggles pretty badly with that, whereas Wayland handles the whole shebang effortlessly. So let's play matchmaker for a second. If you have a single monitor and just want an easy, familiar, Windows-like experience, go with Linux Mint. It's fantastic. Now, if you have dual monitors or you want the absolute latest tech, Universal Blue is your go-to. It uses Wayland by default and is practically unbreakable. If you happen to be a professional digital artist who needs hyper-stable support for drawing tablets, Debian is your best bet right now. And amazingly, if you have an Apple Silicon Mac, Asahi Linux has fully reverse-engineered the hardware to run Linux beautifully.
All right, Section 4, installing your new software.
This is where we cross the threshold of actually getting Linux onto your machine and setting up your applications. This is where the magic becomes tangible, you guys. And the installation process is wonderfully straightforward. It's essentially just 3 simple steps. First, you download the operating system file, which is known as an ISO. Second, you flash that file onto a standard USB thumb drive. And third, you just restart your computer, tell it to boot from that USB drive, and follow the simple on-screen prompts. That's literally it. You are installing Linux. And tools like Balena Etcher make this brilliantly user-friendly. You simply select your downloaded file, select your USB drive, and click Flash. There is no complex command line required here whatsoever. It's honestly as intuitive as sending an email.
Okay, once you're installed, you're going to need apps, and Linux has these new magic rules for software, primarily split into two different camps. First, we have Flatpaks, which are the modern standard. They're sandboxed for security, downloaded from a central hub called FlatHub. They feature the absolute latest updates directly from developers, and they even let you safely roll back if an update breaks something. Then you have distribution packages, the traditional way. They're deeply integrated into your system, but they can be a bit older and trickier to roll back. My advice? Definitely try to Flatpak first.
Now, if you were sitting there worried about having to type code to get your apps, fear not. The FlatHub App Store provides a visually rich, completely streamlined interface. Installing apps on Linux today is literally just as easy as using the App Store on your smartphone. You search for what you want, you click install, and you're done.
And finally, Section 5, Daily Life and Gaming.
Let's go ahead and slay the dragons of daily tasks to show you what actually using Linux feels like in the real world. Let's do a realistic compatibility check. Heavy hitters like Google Chrome, Slack, Discord, and even Hollywood-grade video editors like DaVinci Resolve, they work natively on Linux with a simple yep. However, major suites like Adobe Photoshop and Microsoft Office are more of a nope or a kinda. Microsoft Office can sometimes be run through compatibility layers, but generally speaking, for Adobe and Microsoft, you'll be relying on their web-based browser versions or some excellent native alternatives.
And let me tell you, the creative alternatives on Linux are absolute powerhouses. We are not talking about basic knockoffs here. Professional artists swear by Krita for digital painting. DaVinci Resolve and Lightworks are literal industry standards used to cut Oscar-winning films. OBS Studio is the undisputed gold standard for streamers worldwide. And LibreOffice is a deeply powerful, completely free suite for all your document creation needs.
Finally, let's just bust the myth that Linux can't game. Thanks to Valve, Steam runs natively, and their secret weapon, the Proton compatibility layer, actually translates Windows games to run seamlessly on Linux. It's like magic. However, impartially speaking, there are some realistic hurdles. Many multiplayer games use client-side anti-cheat software that actively blocks Linux users. Also, due to strict digital rights management, or DRM, streaming services like Netflix just don't fully trust Linux, which limits your video resolution to 720p. It is a hurdle, for sure, but the overall gaming landscape is vastly better than it was even 5 years ago. So, we return to the big question. Is 2025 your year of the Linux desktop? We've seen how this powerful, community-driven OS completely cuts out the corporate middleman, hands you back control over your software, and provides incredible tools for daily life and gaming. It really all comes back to true ownership of our digital spaces. So, are you going to keep renting your computer from tech giants? Or are you ready to take back the keys?